The Whistling Man.
So, first off, I've read a similar story on here about a person whistling, but I don't think it was near where I am, Massachusetts. So, if you've read a whistling man story before, this is a different one. Who knows? Maybe it was the same guy. Anyways, this incident occurred when I want to say 15 years old, so 11 years ago. I lived on a road that was perpendicular to a very busy main road in my town. Not Boston busy, mind you, but busy by our standards. On the other side of the road was an elderly folks' home and had a nice outdoors area with a swing set, an outdoor checkers/chess table, and some picnic tables. I liked to go out late at night, and I thought I was invincible at that age. I don't anymore. So, on this night, it was around midnight. My mom wasn't home. I forget where she was. I think she was working actually. And I was listless, so I decided to walk across the street to the swing set and swing on the swings. There was a street light where the swings were, and it was so close to my house, I felt safe. There's almost no one out in my town at that time of night, and I would see cop cars drive down the road occasionally, which gave me the illusion of safety. I had my earbuds in my ears, blasting my favorite music with the volume all the way up. I was happily swinging there for a while, for maybe 20 minutes. In between songs, there was a few seconds of silence, and that's when I heard it, a sound of some sort. Puzzled but not alarmed, I paused my music, but didn't take my earbuds out and kept swinging. This time I heard it distinctly. It was someone whistling. I stopped swinging and took my earbuds out. I looked around. I could vaguely see a man's silhouette about half a football field's length away from me, leaning under a street light. Then he whistled again, the kind of utility whistle some people can do with 2 fingers. It seemed very loud for how far away he was. My first thought was that he was hailing a cab. I quickly realized that couldn't possibly be right. I lived in a town. We didn't even have cabs. And it was midnight. And even if he had called for a cab or something, you don't whistle them down. That's just not something that happens here. It was just my brain trying to make sense of the situation. So why was he whistling? Whose attention was he trying to get? There was no one out here. That's when a shiver went down my spine. Was he whistling at me? Was he trying to get my attention? I was snapped to attention when the man suddenly shouted, "Hey!" He shouted it aggressively, like he just watched someone steal from him. Then the silhouette left from under the street light, walking in my general direction. As soon as he was out from under the street light, I lost him in the inky blackness. I started to sweat. My eyes darted through the darkness, frantically searching for him, but I saw nothing, not even movement. Then, from the darkness, he started whistling again, but this time it wasn't a basic whistle. He was whistling what sounded like a warped sing-song whistle. You know those ballerinas that have a little sing-song chime? It was like if one of those had somehow gotten screwed up and it was playing this weird, dissonant melody, like a music box from a horror movie. My heart leapt to my throat. What the actual fuck? My eyes kept searching for him but found nothing. The sing-song whistle got louder. I could tell he was advancing on me, but where the fuck was he? He got closer and closer, and I honestly wanted to cry. I was so scared. I kept telling myself, run, just run. The longer you sit here, the closer he gets. For the love of God, just run. I couldn't will my limbs to move. I was paralyzed with fear. The sing-song got closer and closer until it felt like he couldn't have been more than 15 feet away. I could hear his heavy breathing now, and I still couldn't fucking see him. I wanted to scream at him. What the fuck did this guy want? I summoned all my courage, but only managed to squeak out a meek, "Hello?" It was then that he started laughing. This laugh, I can't even describe it. It just sounded so sinister. I felt like I could almost hear how badly this man wanted to hurt me. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I've never heard a laugh like that before, and I watch a lot of horror. It sounded maniacal, crazed, like the laughter of a deranged lunatic about to descend on his helpless prey. I truly believed I was going to die. Every cell of my body was screaming at me to run, but I felt like I couldn't move. Finally, all at once, I leapt out of the swing with as much force as I could muster and took off running. He kept on laughing. I ran all the way to my house, slammed the front door shut, and locked it. It occurred to me that it was so close by, it's possible he saw where I ran to, but I didn't care. I needed to get out of there. I needed to get somewhere safe immediately. I quickly locked all the doors and windows and triple-checked them. Then I walked into the kitchen, sank to my knees, and sobbed. I have never been so scared in all of my life. I felt like a gazelle that narrowly escaped a cheetah. I feel like he was close enough to catch me running, but he just didn't go after me. Maybe it caught him off guard. Maybe he was just some dick trying to scare me. I don't know. But his laugh makes me believe otherwise. His laugh didn't sound like a dumb frat boy playing a prank on a young girl. There was something wrong with it. I cried on the kitchen floor and was so tired I fell asleep right there on the tiles. I know this goes without saying, but deranged whistling man, let's not meet ever again.
Guy in a scream mask came after us while riding ATVs.
I've posted this story in reply to an Ask Reddit question, but I thought you guys here might enjoy this. When I was about 14, my good friends and I were all out riding four-wheelers, ATVs, whatever works. I live in the country, miles away from any town/city. It's very rural. Anyways, there were probably 6 of us, my sister and 4 of our friends. We had been riding all day and we were headed back to my house when we decided to take a different trail back. My guy friend was in the front of the line and stopped to get a log out of the way from the trail. We were in a field with lots of holes that were covered by the tall grass, so we tried not to venture off the trails so we wouldn't damage our four-wheelers. As he was picking up this huge log from the trail, I looked over to the tree line at the edge of the field, which was about 15 feet or so away from me, and there was this guy in one of those scream masks that has the fake blood in the plastic of it. He was walking in a creepy hunting way. I started screaming for them to go. They all turned and saw him, and we hurried out of there. Before we got out of there, he was within a few feet of the back of my four-wheeler. It was one of the scariest things to ever happen to me at the time. I didn't really ride much after that. Before anyone asks, we had permission to ride where we were. My parents were very strict. We would not tear up the land where we rode. We never cut donuts or ruts. We were taught that if these people were nice enough to let us ride, we needed to respect their property. So, we have no idea why this guy came about and what his objective was. Also, we don't know if he had a weapon or not. We didn't stick around to find out. I know it's not a long story, but my sisters never went riding with us again, not on trails, and never again around where we lived.
Creepy guys stalked my house.
To start this story off, I want to say a few things. First being that this is my first story, so sorry if it's not the best quality. And second, this is only my first, and I hope to post more stories as I have had many strange things happen in my life. So to the story. I live in the middle of nowhere. The only thing we have is a gas station and a post office. My parents didn't bat an eye at leaving me home alone for the weekend. There are close to no threats out here. I know all my neighbors, so I wasn't worried. I am 16, so naturally the first thing I did when they left was light up a joint and turn on a movie super fucking loud. I didn't hear the knocking at the door at first, partially due to spacing out from the weed, and partly the volume of the TV. But when I noticed, I got up, a bit paranoid. So I kept the chain on the door locked when I opened it. I sleepwalk, so we have to have this chain in place, and it could have saved my life. I opened the door to a strange dude standing in my mudroom. Not weird, as you have to go into the mud room where we keep our shoes to get to the front door. The conversation was the usual, "Hi, are your parents home?" Then me staring back in a baked wonder for a few moments before shaking my head. I thought he would leave after that, but he stood there for almost a minute before I awkwardly said goodbye and shut the door. He stayed where he was and watched me through the glass door. So, me being annoyed, I turned off the mudroom light, leaving him in basically complete darkness. After I turned off the lights, I grabbed my dog and cat and locked all of us in my living room, turning off the TV so I could hear anything that happens. I think whoever it was noticed my dog's rope outside and was counting on me going out at some point for her, because for nearly an hour I saw their car rolling up and down my street, a very small 3-house street. Now just picture this, a 16-year-old girl, baked out of her mind, home alone, in the middle of nowhere, an hour from help, with only a dog to protect her. And lucky for me, my dog was only 3 months old. At her 1-year age now, she could take down a full-grown man. Luckily, I saw my neighbor come out through the living room window and walk up to the car. I have never spoken to my neighbor before, but he is big, scary, and pretty wicked looking. I couldn't tell what happened, but my neighbor looked pretty pissed and kept looking back at me peeking through the window. In the end, the car drove off. My neighbor came to my door and told me he had the guy's license plate number and that he would call the police if he saw it again. He also kept his dog out that night. Big country dog. It was summer, so the dog was fine outside with his bed and some food. I didn't call the police, and that may have been stupid, but I have never seen them since, and I assume that because they were prowling in the country, they wouldn't in the city. At least I hope. I now keep a bat with me when home alone, and my dog is big enough to protect me. So to the creepy guy who stalked my house, let's not meet.
Budget. You get what you pay for.
This happened 3 years ago. My mom got moved to an assisted living facility a few states away. She was declining rapidly, so my fiance, at the time, got me a plane ticket and a rental car as a Christmas present so I could go up and surprise her. Being 21 at the time, I didn't have a credit card. My fiance paid for it all and insured the car under his credit card. I arrived at the Detroit rental car company at 11:45 p.m. Being a youngster from a small town, I had never even used Uber or ever really traveled alone. I was very nervous as I walked to pick up my rental car. The lady at the front desk informed me that I wouldn't be able to use a car because the credit card was not under my name, and despite having enough money, I couldn't pay outright for the car. Tears started to swell up in my eyes as I begged her to make an exception. I tried reasoning with her by making the biggest, most obvious mistakes possible. Me. But miss, I'm so afraid. I've never even used Uber before. I've never even been to Detroit. And I'm here to surprise my mom. No one knows I'm here. I need this car. I'm an idiot, I know. Lady, maybe you can call your mom and she can pick you up. Me, no ma'am, she is asleep, and even if she woke up, she's paralyzed and mentally incapacitated. She couldn't help me. Dumb. And with that, the lady at the counter said, "Don't worry, I'll take care of you." She called someone from her personal cell phone and told me it was a company that the rental place uses a lot. I felt slightly uncomfortable because it was her personal cell phone, but what else could I do? I was stuck. A man came in with sunglasses on. Again, it's almost midnight, and she pointed at me. He walked over and grabbed my bag without saying a word and gestured for me to follow him. Still a little sketched out, I grabbed my bag and said, "I'll carry that." Driver, okay. Me, can I see your commercial driving license or something? Driver, it's in the car. The car was in the dark to the side of the building. Driver opens the back seat. Get in. Me, I'd still like to see your license. So the driver shows me a regular driver's license, and I asked to take a picture to send to my fiance, and he says no and stands in front of me, creating a wall so that I can't easily move away from the car. Me, I think I'm going to decline the ride. Thank you so much. Driver, no. Doesn't move, so I push out from behind him and run back into the rental place. The waiting room is clearing out, and there's only the woman at the checkout counter, a man waiting, the driver about to walk back in, and me. I hold back tears as I text my fiance my location and SOS, please send a car. Lady, what the hell happened? Why are you still here? Me, my fiance wasn't comfortable with the situation. He is calling me a car. Lady, you little crybaby bitch, get in that car. Her and the driver proceed to continue yelling at me until I leave the car rental place to wait on the streets of Detroit for my car. The guy from the waiting room came out and told me he was proud I didn't get in the car and that something sketchy was definitely going on. Bob came and picked me up in a town car that my fiance ordered. I was able to surprise my mom, and thankfully it wasn't from a milk carton. I'm an idiot, but rental car lady and her creepy friend. Let's not meet again.